who starts, who sits, and how to become the greatest of all time. This is the Fantasy G.O.A.T.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Fantasy G.O.A.T. It's your end of the year G.O.A.T. Awards show. Jason, a great season we've had this year and a lot of great moments and performances, and we have a lot of awards to hand out tonight, which who doesn't love award season? But I also will just let me introduce myself really quick. Yeah. I'm Mariah Janos. I'm in for Mike Davis because he is sick as a dog, but happy to fill in here alongside Jason Feinberg. Jason, yes.
I mean, I was just going to say, you picked a great show to come in and do. It's the award show. You walked the red carpet. Yeah. I saw you doing interviews with some of the media members, giving some tips on who you would take for next year. It's just great.
Yes, all around amazing. Is there an award that you're most excited for?
Of the ones that we're talking about?
The ones we're handing out.
Yes, because, and now that the holiday is over, I'm still in a Grinchy mood, so I like to do the negative ones.
Negative.
So least valuable player is who I'm, and I think it's cathartic. I think you're in the same boat. Yeah, it's going to feel good to let that person know that we're handing him an award for doing nothing for us.
Yeah, I love the sarcasm, so it's all about that. But here's a look at some of the GOAT awards that we will be handing out this evening. We have our very prestigious Fantasy MVP, and the not so prestigious LVP, which Jason was just talking about. We have our most likely to break out and our most likely to fall off. A fun one is best single game performance. There's so many to choose from. And our 2024 Fantasy League winner given to the player that overperformed his ADP. Here's how it will work. Jason and I will be handing out 2 awards for each of these categories. But Jason, let's begin with who you are giving the best single game performance award to.
Okay, so it's interesting because this wasn't even his best game of the year, and I don't even think it was his second best game of the year, but everybody remembers Saquon Barkley with that reverse hurdle against Jacksonville. Look, it was only for an extra 7-8 yards, but just to see him catapult kind of backwards-ish over the defender to get those extra yards. And I was looking at my full point PPR, 27 carries for 159 and 36.9 were taking it, but nothing like the game he had against Los Angeles, and nothing again, what you're talking about with your guy, who had the most monster game, I think, of the whole season. But anyway, I am giving mine the single game performance award to Saquon Barkley.
You also get style points mixed in with that. So even though maybe his number wasn't the best he posted all year, you got the style points because that leap was just, put it on a t-shirt. It probably is on one at this
Even
point.
The league made like a little, did you see the animation like a week or two later where they had it looked like the old Atari?
Right.
It was so cool.
Yeah, so that is a good one. I went with Jamar Chase, like you mentioned, versus Baltimore in Week 10. He had 11 catches on 17 targets for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns for a whopping total of 55.4 full PPR points. I had him in that game, and I still lost that week. So that just shows you how I was doing in Jason's fantasy league this year. It really wasn't a pretty one. Jamar Chase was the one bright spot week after week, and that's kind of how it's felt watching Cincinnati all year as well. You know that you're going to get that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase connection. It's the saving grace, even though much like my team that week, Cincinnati did end up losing by just 1 point in that game against Baltimore. So it was a rough one, but Jamar Chase, the one bright spot, the gift that keeps on giving this holiday season.
And it's funny because the one that I was hailing, Saquon Barkley, was also the same one that knocked me out of a couple leagues, including the same league, the Dr. Feinberg one that I host. So yeah,
you just
good
can't
and bad.
have it all. Can't have it all.
No.
It's never going to work out, especially in this year's fantasy leagues. I think that's the gripe that everybody has is like, what's going on?
No consistency.
Exactly. All right, Jason, we're just getting started here in our 2024 GOAT Awards show. Up next, it's our most likely to break out and most likely to fall in 2025. Stick around.
This is the Fantasy G.O.A.T.
Welcome back to the 2024 Fantasy GOAT Awards. Up next, we have an award that looks into the future. Very cool. Our most likely to break out in 2025 and our most likely to fall off in 2025. Jason, let's begin with the breakouts. Who gets your pick?
All right, so yeah, we're starting with Malik Neighbors for New York. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying to yourself, wait, didn't he kind of break out this year? And the answer is yeah, he did. But we still talk about Brian Thomas Jr. as more of a success story when we were drafting Malik Neighbors higher. And think about this. When New York gets maybe the number 1, number 2 pick, they're going to get a good quarterback. That, I believe, is when we're really going to see Malik Neighbors break out. And it's kind of a bonus he was able to do what he is doing with pretty much any quarterback they put on the field.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm in a similar situation with my pick. I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, he's tied for the 6th most touchdowns in the league. So similar to you, you're like, yeah, they had a breakout year as rookies, but they can do more. So we've seen flashes of his greatness when Kyler Murray does connect with him, but getting that rhythm established consistently this offseason is going to be key for him. He has receptions on only 53.6% of his targets. So that's really been the issue with Marvin Harrison Jr. all season long is, will he be even targeted? He's had games where he's had maybe like 3. And he's a great player. He should be utilized more. I think a lot of us were expecting him to be utilized more, especially those who had him on their roster. They're like, why isn't this kid racking up the numbers?
Yeah.
It's a killer because then there's some games, single games, where he would post a good number. So it was really frustrating to watch. I think next year will be his year.
Those were the weeks that he was on your bench.
Yes, exactly. You're like, okay, he wasn't doing anything. We're going to bench him.
Right,
and
then
then
he
all
goes
of a
off.
sudden, he's Kyler's favorite person in that game. So again, you just can't win sometimes. But all right, Jason, now it's a not so prestigious award. The player most likely to fall off in 2025. Who you got?
This is a sad one. This is like when you have your crush in the 7th grade and then it's summer, right? And you don't have a car, so you can't see her. And it's also kind of like just your pal. It's like you got to say bye to your pal, and that is Cooper Kupp. And Mariah, the most joy I got every season was having this joke with my friends, including you, where we're like, Cooper Kupp is like 7-Eleven. He's always open.
Right.
And then we'd come up with some other 24-hour place, Wawa, some anywhere. But now I just don't think I'll be able to do that joke anymore because, as we saw recently, Puka Nacua is the guy now.
Yeah.
And I do like him too, but Cooper Kupp is my most likely to fall.
He also might be switching teams. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
What's going on. And maybe he will give another team that boost in the future. But yeah.
He's getting older, though.
He is older. Nacua is the future. It is so fun to watch that kid play.
I know.
So I get it. But I'm going with an older gentleman as well. Mark Andrews. Slow start to the season. Injury prone. He's older. I think the decline has already started a little bit. They got Isaiah Likely on the squad as well. So I just think it's going to be one of those steady declines until he decides to hang him up. It's sad. You're taking the dog out to the pasture.
To use another analogy, like the 7th grader, it's like the car that's been in the garage and Old Faithful, but at some point
it just won't start.
Yeah,
it's pretty. You put a lot of work into it, and you had some good years, good memories with it. But at some point, it's time to move on to the new Tesla or something.
And maybe Cooper or Mark are watching right now, and they're saying, "I'm only 30."
Yeah.
Me
too. Yeah. But I was just talking, my shoulder hurts right now. And I'm only 30.
Yeah.
And it's strictly from standing here in heels. So I can only imagine how your body feels playing football at 30 years old, because I can't even go up the Stairmaster for more than 5 minutes without my knees like popping and being swollen. So
I always like the fact that you and Mike Davis are catching up to me.
Yeah, no, we are internally aging at a rapid rate, so the future is looking pretty bleak for us. But that's okay. The future's looking good right here, right now. Don't go anywhere. We're naming our 2024 league winners. That is after the break. Don't miss it. Welcome back to the 2024 Fantasy GOAT Awards. Now it's time to acknowledge the best underdog stories of the fantasy year. And our 2024 League Winner Award going to the player that the way they outperformed their average draft position. So you selected them somewhere, and then all of a sudden it was just the most pleasant surprise. One of those, the holiday, I was going to say Christmas, Hanukkah,
love
whatever.
that. It was like the Puka Nakua of last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Puka Nakua of this season. Jason, get us started. Who's your pick?
Well, mine, on a regular 12-team league, I don't even think that he was drafted, tell you the truth, even as a backup quarterback. And we're talking about Baker Mayfield. I love this guy. I didn't like him in Cleveland because he was doing too many commercials. It seemed like his mind was elsewhere, and he was playing for Cleveland. When he moved over, I remember he was with LA for a little bit, but then he really started to shine with Tampa Bay. And it's like, it doesn't matter who was on the field. First, it was his A team. We had Evans and Godwin. Things were great, but then they lose both of them. He still finds Cade Otton. Then Evans comes back, he finds Evans, but Godwin's still gone, so he finds, some of the other guys that are rookies, McMillan, and then he can even toss it to Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. This guy constantly is throwing touchdowns, and yeah, he threw interceptions too, but like a lot of quarterbacks, he would come back on the field and then make up for it, where you have other guys like Jameis Winston or Will Levis who don't. So I think he's my MVP, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I have really just loved the evolution of Baker because it kind of reminds me, he's just that guy, and I relate to this. He has to go through the issues to learn from them and better himself. He went through it in college. He was that, little pest, but he learned from his mistakes, moved on, went to Cleveland, was that guy, kind of got caught up in it, then got shipped out to LA, really learned from that. He got an opportunity in LA as a backup and wowed us in that game.
Yep.
And then he got moved over to Tampa, and he's really taking advantage of that opportunity. And I think that just sums him up in a nutshell. And I'm like that too. I have to break the rules in order and reap the consequences, and then I learn from them. So I really appreciate Baker Mayfield's journey. Now, as for my pick, I went with our local guy here in Vegas, Brock Bowers. Completely outperformed the draft position. Tight ends this year, we've talked about it. Their production down all season across the board. He wasn't even one of the first 12 tight ends drafted. And he's emerged at the top of the tight end group in the league with George Kittle. It's just him and George Kittle. And then there's a giant drop off. And then there's the rest of the tight ends. So for this rookie to be doing that and just be miles ahead of everyone else is really great to see, especially on a team that is horrendous. It's really nice to see him. You talk about making the most of your opportunity. He has so far. So he's racked up all the points. I'm a big Brock Bowers guy, really proud of him, and I can't wait to see where he's headed in the future of his career. So it'll be interesting.
No, Brock Bowers is great. He's way better in PPR than in standard.
Yeah.
I noticed because the one league I have him is in standard. He still puts up numbers, but he doesn't have the touchdowns as a George Kittle.
Right.
So I was getting burned a little bit with that. But overall, I had him briefly in. I don't know if you've played in a guillotine league, but you kind of can pick up guys. It's pretty fun. We'll do it next year. But anyway, I had him, and he was getting the PPR points. So I was reaping the benefits.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy to have on your squad. So we appreciate you, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, next up, we're taking a little break. We're going to talk about some best fantasy football last place punishments we've seen this year. If you're still looking for something for your last place league member, stick around. I think that might be me, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is.
I don't want you to get any ideas, Jason, but we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Fantasy GOAT Awards show. Now we're into our most prestigious award of the night, our Fantasy MVP. Jason, who are you handing this great honor to?
All right, I am handing this great honor to somebody who burns me. It's like there's always somebody that you want on your team, but you never get because when it comes in the draft and you're like, I like him, but I like this guy more,
right? You're like,
right?
Which one should I do? And then you make the biggest mistake of your life.
And it's always Mike Evans. So he burned me so many times this season. Seems like I always was playing against him when he was having his great games. He's going for the record. He's probably going to get it after the monster game last week. So yeah, I'm going to give it to a guy that I don't get, and that is Mike Evans, still doing it at his age, north of 30.
Yeah, I'm right there with you behind my reasoning of who I picked. I've played him the last 3 weeks in a row.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's ruined my life the last 3 weeks in
yeah.
a row. Sir Josh Allen, I think he's ruined everyone's lives. If you don't have him, you're crying about it because it's just like 40 plus points, and like it doesn't matter how great your team played. Josh Allen is like putting up points that matches your team's total. But he has been incredible all season long. And, you know, there were only a handful of instances where he didn't hit at least 20 points. There was only one instance where he was held to a single digit, and that was like back in week 3 or 4. So he has been consistently climbing the charts all the way to now being the favorite for league MVP. So he is my fantasy MVP because he just kills me every single time I play him, and he just makes magic happen both with his legs and his arm. And
he's not throwing interceptions like he was last year.
Yes, and he's newly engaged, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Right, because you sort of like the TMZ angle to everything too.
You have to. You
Sure.
have to just like them personally as well. So, yeah, Josh Allen is the dude in Buffalo and across the league. It's just him. So
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all about it. All right, on the other end of the spectrum, though, our fantasy least valuable player. This one's kind of a stinker. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the show because just there's so many that you can choose from. I like yours, but I like mine too, and that is one Deebo Samuel. We all had high hopes for Deebo, and we thought that he would maybe turn it around, like Mark Andrews.
Yes.
Mark Andrews did finally kind of turn it around. We were waiting for Deebo to do it. He never did. I don't know about you, but he did look a little bit bigger to me this year than last year. He didn't look as spry. I don't know if he was eating the sourdough bread in San Francisco or what, but he never did it, and eventually wound up on the bench, but not a guy that should ever be on your bench until this season. So Deebo Samuel is my least valuable player. And
you know, you feel stupid when you're like, I'm going to move Deebo to the bench.
Yeah.
You're like, and people are questioning you. They're like, are you sure though?
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, fine. You give in to that temptation. You put him in your lineup, and then there's like 4 points.
Yeah.
And then the person you put on your bench for him racked up 20. And
like Cedric Tillman before the concussion was getting 30.
Exactly.
Like, who?
So it's so frustrating. For me, I am staying with Las Vegas as well. Zamir White.
Yeah.
We came into the season, Antonio Pierce is all about that run game. We're going to ground and pound them. Where was the run game? Did you see it? Did anyone see it? I didn't see it. There was no run game. And Zamir White was supposed to be the focal point of that. They were all hype about him during preseason. He was going to be the guy, RB1, taking Josh Jacobs' place. He was supposed to just keep the train moving. We saw none of that. He was averaging 2.8 yards per attempt. 30 total rushing yards on the season.
Wow, I didn't even realize that.
Yes, so that was really rough. All right, finally we have...
By the way, it's sad when you have to go from Zamir to Sincere.
Oh,
yeah, who also is not playing anymore.
Sincere, who also got the boot. So that's tough. But finally, we have a winner from our season-long GOAT lineup series. We have Mike Davis, not here to accept the award, but we'll probably acknowledge him after the break.
It's better off this way.
Yes.
Yeah, he would just go on and on and on.
Right. Well, you're a sore loser as well. So, yeah, you know, I'm just the mediator in this situation. We'll be right back.
This is the Fantasy GOAT.
Welcome back to the Fantasy GOAT Awards Show. Our final award of the night, our GOAT Trophy. Right here, look at this little cutie.
Yeah.
Given to the winner of Jason and Mike's head-to-head battle in GOAT lineup. So here's how it works. For those who are new, each week Jason and Mike face off head-to-head in standard scoring by selecting one quarterback, one running back, and one wide receiver, and lastly, one tight end. Here's the catch. They could only use a player one time all year, kind of like a survivor style. And last year, Jason was the GOAT. But this year, my, how the tables have turned, and he's not even here to accept it. Mike Davis is the winner of this year's Fantasy GOAT.
And this is kind of what it looks like with the Oscar Awards.
Hi.
Right, where they're all in boxes.
Trying to pick his nose.
Oh, there you go.
I
can't.
There it is.
I'm too far away. I was going to crush his head. Look, it's probably yes, I'm a sore loser, but it is better that Mike isn't here because I remember Mike's won things in the past and he's completely exploited it to the point where everyone was ad nauseum. And so it's better this way. In fact, I like him with the award because he's not accepting it.
You know, Jason it's funny. It's really funny hearing those words. It's rich. You know what it is? It's rich hearing those words come out of Jason's mouth because he is the king of doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about things at nauseum length, just going on and on about how he's the winner. Jason, you've been riding it until this point.
I have.
Now the tables have turned.
You're just mad because when I had my thank you. No, because when I had my thank you speech, my acceptance speech last year, I put my 2 cats before you. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, but you know, I understand the felines coming first.
Yeah.
You know, I have gradually become a cat person over the years. Don't tell my dog.
No, I know.
You know, they are nice little companions to have. So I
think so.
understand putting them first. But this will be awarded to Mike Davis, who is on his deathbed. And hopefully this will bring him back to full strength because the power of the GOAT will revive him.
I just am still a little bent because we only had a 13-game slate. And yet there's 18 weeks in the season. I was saving some of my really good players for later because you said we can only play one.
Time flies.
And that's it. And then boom, I lose.
You might as well just start the best ones right out of the gate. I understand wanting to save them,
but
you're
right.
That's clearly bitten you in the behind this time of round. Yeah. But I get it. You think you have more time than you do, and then you don't. But that's it. That's a wrap on life. And hopefully Mike will feel better. And that's us from the GOAT Award show.
Yeah.
I mean, best way to go out, right?
Yeah, I think so. All right. See everybody.
Have
Enjoy.
a good one.